Hello guys, my name is Eve. I have a story for you today. Thankfully, I don't have a crazy mother-in-law in my life, but I do have a crazy stepsister, Allison. I don't want to go into much detail about the stepsister. She is a nasty woman who competed against me every chance she got. She faked illness on my birthdays and broke my things. She even stole all of my boyfriends and crushes when we got older. I knew that she was jealous of me because of whatever reason. She would never accept that, though. Allison always maintained that she was the better woman, so it was natural for her to attract men. For some odd reason, my dad and stepmother always went along with it. They didn't want their perfect family to be disturbed by warring sisters. Well, that just made things worse. Allison never stopped harassing me. Trust me, guys, I did my best to control my temper around her. But shit hit the fan when I was 24 and this crazy freaking woman stole my then fiancé, Chris, by sleeping with him. It was our 5th anniversary when Allison casually walked into my house and said, "Wow, that's a nice anniversary celebration you have going, Eve. I wonder if the effort was worth it, though. You know, Chris will be eventually leaving you for me anyway." What the hell are you talking about? Chris loves me, unlike all the men you slept with before. We are engaged, and he would never do that to me. God, you are so naive, Eve. I always told you that men would pick me over you. Chris just couldn't resist me either. We slept together the day you went out for your friend's bachelor's party. Don't make up lies, Allison. Chris would never do that. You are being delusional. Am I, Eve? Well, then, why don't you ask your dear fiancé about it, Chris? I know you remember the amazing night we spent in your bedroom. Want to tell your fiancé about it? I looked at Chris, expecting him to blow up at Allison for the false accusations. He had always defended me when Allison insulted me in the past. He was my rock and the love of my life. I was sure that he would never hurt me that way. Imagine my shock and sadness when Chris was looking at the floor, refusing to look me in the eye. I was shocked and desperate for answers. I said, "Chris, why are you quiet? Tell Allison what a lying witch she is. Tell her." What will he say, Eve? He knows the truth, and so do I. Now you know the truth as well. Chris and I slept together and loved it. It's only a matter of time before Chris breaks his engagement to you. Chris, is she speaking the truth? Tell me now. Don't leave me in the dark. Eve, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. Please. I didn't listen to the rest of his speech. I was numb with pain and betrayal when Chris accepted having an affair with my sister. I didn't care about the details or how long it went on. I didn't want to know. One night was enough. I immediately dumped Chris and threw my engagement ring at him. That night was one of the worst nights of my life. Allison laughed at me when she revealed the affair and called me a loser. Maybe I was a loser for falling in love with a cheater. I hated myself and thought that I would never find happiness again. Chris did try to talk to me and beg for forgiveness. Allison texted me, giving me all the details of the affair that I never wanted to hear. She told me, "Chris would have left you eventually, Eve. He's just way out of your league. You should have seen this coming. A wealthy man like Chris needs a beautiful woman like me, not a sack of potatoes like you." What have I ever done to you, Allison? Why do you hate me so much? I don't like you, Eve. In fact, I do hate you. You think just because my mom treats you well, you are the queen of this world? Well, You are nothing but a freaking loser. You will always lose to me, Eve, and no one would protect you because no one actually cares about you. I finally grew a spine and cut her off for good. My dad and stepmother tried to intervene, but I told them off too. After ending things with Chris, I took a job transfer and moved to a different state. There, I started my life afresh and vowed to turn my life around. Also, I secretly prayed for a chance to get revenge on Allison for what she did. It was going to be a rare chance, but I kept hope. I stopped talking to a lot of people who still kept in touch with Allison and asked me to forgive her. I did have a good life in the new city, but kept everything secret from most of my family. I didn't even tell them when I met someone and got engaged to him after 3 years. My new life didn't have Allison's drama in it. I was finally happy and content with how life was going. Imagine my surprise when I got a mysterious phone call from an unknown number. I picked up the call, and it was Allison calling for me. I let her speak because I wanted to know what the hell she wanted from me. She said in a sickeningly sweet voice, "Hey, Eve, how are you doing?" "We are not that close to making small talk, Allison. Tell me what you want." "You got me at that, Eve. I guess I can cast aside the small talk now. I have no interest in knowing how you are anyway, so I am getting married to Chris next month, and you are invited." "Why would I want to come, Allison? And why would you even want me there if you don't care about me at all?" "Oh, you poor thing, Eve. I just wanted you there because of our close relationship with Chris. I met him through you, remember? Naturally, I want you there. I know that this news might be bad for you, but it is what it is. Don't be jealous, Eve. I understand that you will be upset. It is hard knowing that the man you loved is now marrying your stepsister." So, Allison was indeed inviting me to gloat and throw it in my face that she was marrying my ex-fiancé. I was surprised that Chris stayed with Allison. I guess I could see why. Allison couldn't let go of his wealth, and Chris stayed because cheaters make a great pair. Allison thought that gloating about her wedding to my ex-fiancé would make me sad and jealous. Well, I wasn't either of them. I have my reasons why, so I smirked at her and said, "Oh, that's okay, Allison. I don't mind you marrying my ex at all. In fact, I'm very happy that you two found each other. I must say that two cheaters would make a great pair. Thanks for taking him off my hands, Allison. I don't need him anyway. I'm marrying a better man." "Oh, please, Eve. You haven't dated since you broke up with Chris. I know, just like everyone else in your life, you are a loser, Eve. You will die alone while I ride off into the sunset with your precious ex-fiancé." "Well, like I said, I'm happy for you, Allison. Believe it or not, I am now engaged to a much better man who I will marry in the next few months. You didn't know because I was smart enough to not make my love life public again." "Is that so, Eve? Then why don't you bring him to my wedding and rehearsal dinner? I'm sure the family would love to meet this new fiancé of yours if he does exist. I'll give you a gracious +1 so that you can introduce him to us." "Are you sure you want that, Allison? I mean, it's your rehearsal dinner and wedding, so you may not want my fiancé there. If I were you, I would think things through." "You are the one asking to be humiliated, Eve. You think I would believe your animated story about being engaged? Well, no, so don't try to get out of this. Bring him. I, too, want to see what better man you are talking about." "If you say so, then so be it. You need to tell everyone that you invited my new fiancé to your wedding events. I didn't want Allison to turn on me and say that I purposefully brought my fiancé to ruin her day. I knew that when she would see my fiancé, she would throw a fit. I didn't want to take the blame later. It was Allison who insisted that I bring my fiancé Seth to her rehearsal dinner. I am not even considering her wedding because I am sure we won't be attending that. Anyway, Allison was so confident about my love life being a lie that she did as I said. She told everyone that she was a good sister and invited my new fiancé so that everyone could meet him. Everyone seemed happy and excited to finally meet the man who stole my heart. On the day of the rehearsal dinner, Allison was prepared to make fun of me and my fiancé. She was convinced that there was no way I could find a better man than Chris. I get the sentiment. Chris is kind of rich and handsome. Allison was marrying him because she thought neither me nor her would ever get a better man than him. To each to one's own, I guess. Anyway, my fiancé already knew everything and was excited to meet my family, excluding Allison and Chris. He didn't care about them or their opinions. In fact, he downright hated Allison for different reasons. The reasons will be revealed later. We went to the rehearsal and arrived before the bride and groom. Both of them were fashionably late again. Meanwhile, Seth got the chance to meet and know all my family before the drama began. The real fun began when Allison and Chris arrived hand in hand at the venue. They were dressed to the nines, while Chris didn't exactly look particularly happy. He lit up when he saw me, but I kept a neutral face. Meanwhile, Allison, who looked happy and even smirked at me, actually turned as white as a ghost when she saw Seth. She immediately broke free from Chris and ran over to Seth. She said, "Seth, what are you doing here?" "You invited me to your rehearsal dinner, Allison." "Well, you didn't actually invite me knowingly, but you did." "What? I don't understand. How did I unknowingly invite you?" "I believe you told Eve to bring her fiancé to your rehearsal dinner and wedding, so—" "So what? What are you trying to say?" Allison knew Seth very well. That's why she didn't want to accept what Seth was going to say. She looked horrified and tried to stop Seth from actually spitting out her worst nightmare. That's when I decided to step in and say, "Seth is my new fiancé, Allison. I get it that you two know each other. Small world, right? Since you told me to invite my fiancé, I told him to come along." No, Seth can't be your fiancé. You are lying. You two are playing a game to intentionally hurt me. You were trying to ruin my day, Eve. Stop being so cruel." "I don't care about you enough to ruin your day, Allison. Like I said before, I found a better man, so there is nothing for me to be bitter about. But I don't know why you think you are acting this way." Allison started to suddenly cry and asked Seth if what I was saying was true. She was behaving insane, and everyone, including Chris, was confused by her reaction. But I wasn't surprised at all. I knew this was going to happen. Allison knew Seth very well. They went to the same college, and he was her senior. Allison was madly in love with him and tried to get with him several times. She even went as far as to jinx 2 of his relationships to get him to date her. Seth hated her since then and didn't want anything to do with her. He only agreed to come that day because he and I both needed revenge against Allison. We were successful in getting what we wanted. Seth actually looked at Allison in a very indifferent way and said, "Yes, it's all true. I am engaged to my beautiful fiancée, Eve. She is the love of my life, and we will be getting married soon. You are not invited, though." No, you can't marry my sister, Seth. You knew I was in love with you. How can you marry my sister? You can't do this. Eve, how dare you do this to me? You knew everything and still betrayed me. You want to hurt me. Unlike you, My love life doesn't revolve around my stepsister, Allison. I had no idea who Seth was until a few months into dating, and just because you loved him doesn't mean I will have to drop him. Seth loves me and I love him too. How dare you talk about loving Seth in front of me? How can you hurt me like that? You never should have dated Seth. I always knew you were a cheap witch who wanted to ruin my happiness. You intentionally got with Seth because I am marrying your ex-fiancé. That's ironic. Since you decided to literally make my ex-fiancé cheat on me, now you're getting married to him. Meanwhile, you and Seth never dated and he hates you with a passion. I didn't even know your connection to him before we dated. I don't think you should be throwing out allegations. In fact, you are the one who ruined my happiness. Allison was now crying and screaming accusations at me. It was bizarre because she was throwing a tantrum over a man at her own rehearsal dinner. The people around were really surprised at what they were witnessing. Chris looked very uncomfortable and wasn't saying much. Since his friends and family were around, he was ashamed to let them witness such an embarrassing situation. Allison never cared about those things. It was clear to everyone that she was still in love with Seth. She clutched Seth's arm and was crying to him. Seth looked super annoyed and tried to get her off him. He said, "You are acting very inappropriately towards your stepsister's fiancé, Allison. Your soon-to-be husband is standing right here. You already stole Eve's fiancé before, but it won't work on me. You are only embarrassing yourself." Seth, you have to believe me. Eve is with you just to get back at me. She doesn't love you at all. She's doing this to hurt me and ruin my life. She doesn't love you like me. You have some nerve saying that you love your stepsister's fiancé more than her. That too, at your own wedding. This is very embarrassing, Allison. I don't have enough time in this world to find out your love interests and get them to date me. Don't freaking lie to me, Eve. You did this on purpose. And you brought Seth to ruin my wedding. You are jealous of me and want to hurt me in the worst way possible. Now, Allison, I didn't even care about you until you reached out to gloat about your wedding to my ex-fiancé who you stole from me. I am happy to know that you are marrying Chris. And you are the one who told me to bring my fiancé. The entire family is witness to that. Everyone in the family immediately agreed to my statement and even berated Allison for her reaction. Allison was so mad with fury and sadness that she didn't want to listen to reason. She was still crying and holding on to Seth for dear life. When Seth couldn't get her off him, Allison's bridesmaids dragged her away. They looked panicked because they could tell that Allison was risking her own marriage. Chris's family was already looking furious, while the bridesmaids were trying hard to make Allison realize what she was doing. But Allison kept screaming at me for ruining her life and spoiling her wedding. But that's when Chris spoke up. He said, "There is no need to blame Eve for destroying your life or trying to ruin your wedding. This wedding is off now. From your reaction, it is clear that you are not over Seth. I'm not surprised. I always knew that you were marrying me to make Eve jealous." "Chris, no, you can't do this to me. Our wedding is tomorrow. You can't cancel the wedding now. I'm telling you, this is all Eve's plan to ruin my day. Don't give in to her plan, Chris." "You are a delusional woman, Allison. Stop blaming Eve for everything bad in your life when it's the total opposite. I regret the day I ever slept with you. That decision ruined my life too. I would have been marrying Eve if you hadn't tricked me into sleeping with you. And I hate myself for complying. I never wanted this marriage in the first place, nor the relationship. You are the one who kept guilting me to stay with you. Today, you have given me enough, and more reason to leave you. We're done, Allison. What are you saying, Chris? You can't leave me now. No, you can't do that to me. We will be getting married tomorrow. You won't leave me because of my stepsister. No, I'm leaving you because of your behavior. I won't let you dangle our nasty affair in my face to get your way. I think I have suffered enough these years and lost the love of my life, Eve. That's enough penance for me. I was kind of surprised to hear that from Chris. It was true that he used to occasionally reach out to apologize to me and try to rekindle our hopeless relationship, but I never paid him attention and eventually blocked him. So hearing him call me the love of his life was surprising but also satisfying. It destroyed Allison and made her realize that no one truly loved her. All the men in my life who she stole abandoned and left her eventually. Now I was engaged to the love of her life, and her own fiancé was calling off the wedding. She realized that and started to totally lose her mind. Allison was a crying mess and didn't know what to say. She kept alternating between begging Chris not to leave her and begging Seth not to marry me. It was pathetic, and everyone was giving her nasty looks. Also, her own friends and Chris's family didn't know about the cheating. When they found out, they had nothing but horrible things to say about Allison. Even Chris had to face some backlash for what happened in the past. He took it all without protest and apologized to me again. Eventually, me and Seth left, along with the rest of the guests. Allison did try to hold Seth, Chris, and me down, but failed when people intervened and got us out. Chris kept his word and refused to marry Allison. The wedding was called off and the relationship ended as well. He did call me and Seth for a meeting for a sense of closure. We both went because we really wanted to put this past us now. Chris apologized to me over and over again and said that he hoped I was happy in my new relationship. When I said yes, the answer made him sad. He congratulated Seth and then left without saying much else. I didn't forgive him, but I did like that he realized his mistakes. The story of Allison took a huge turn. She quickly started to become ostracized when all her friends, colleagues, and family got to know the complete story. People who berated me for not staying in touch with Allison were now supporting me after knowing the truth. In one evening, she lost 90% of the people she knew. She was promptly kicked out of Chris's family's home and left on the streets. Since she recently left work and thought of being a stay-at-home wife, she didn't have a job lined up. Her old job refused to give her job back because of the drama. She had to be unemployed and living out of her car for days. Since Chris's family was influential in the area, their word made many businesses refuse to give her work, so she had to downgrade and work in a place that gave way less money. She is living with roommates now and had to change her lifestyle completely. Seth and I got married just 2 months after this fiasco. We didn't want a big wedding, even though Seth and I are pretty well off. We had a small wedding with all our friends and family present. We didn't invite Allison because she's neither of those. She did try to contact us. She cursed and threatened me while convincing Seth to leave me. We threatened to get a cease and desist order if she continued to harass us. That shut her off real quick. We have since moved on and are enjoying our life just fine. So I got rid of my horrible stepsister, but not before giving her the biggest lesson of her life.